You guys, do you mind if I stream this? It could be live
Yeah.
or not.
Okay.
Are you okay with this? Okay. I'm going to hit the stream button and see if it works. Right now, we're recording to a hard drive, and hopefully it'll show up there as a stream too, in which it does. What institution were you both at? What's the name of the institution you both were?
Southern Desert
Southern
Correctional
Desert.
Center and High Desert.
Southern Nevada Correction Center? Is
High
it?
Desert Correctional Center and Southern Desert Correctional.
Okay. We have the High Desert. Let's see. I have High Desert State.
That's it.
That's
High
it.
Desert State Prison.
All right.
It was state.
Oh, they changed it.
James, I'm gonna basically clap in here. We have what you got in here on this one. So you guys are gonna do this here right in here. Oh baby. Give it away. James, it's your show. We're recording on audio, video, and camera is on you.
Yeah.
There's your mic right up. There's your camera right there, brother.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, that's your camera right there. If you could square up a little bit more, are you comfortable if you square up a little more?
Yeah.
You're fine. You're fine. Sorry about that.
I want you to square up.
You want me to square up or?
Are you
Oh,
comfortable right there? Are you
Oh,
comfortable
yeah.
right there?
Yeah, I'm
What
comfortable.
I'm going to do is square up,
yeah. There you go.
and we'll fix all that in post. Welcome, gentlemen, Century 25 Studios, here on the 20th of July, 2024. We have in the office James Allen Jr., James Allen, James, middle name, they should have known Allen. And this is going to be James Allen Sr.'s show. So I'm going to just shut up now and then you do your thing with your son. The only thing I can think of that, I set this up so that there's a guy who did a movie in the facility you're talking about, the High Desert facility, that might see this. So,
He did a movie?
yeah, what was this guy, Selleck? What was his name?
You mean Tom Selleck?
Yeah, he might see
No.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were there for that movie.
Yeah. He was. Well, he was there for.
I was there for the Undisputed movie.
Right, Undisputed with Wesley
Wesley
Snipes.
Snipes.
That was at High Desert. Okay, Tom Selleck was at Nevada State
NSP,
Prison,
yeah, that was
NSP.
NSP.
Yeah, and that was like 1981.
Yeah.
And he did a film called An Innocent Man, and it was a joy seeing such a celebrity, an actor of his magnitude, come to a prison yard. And we were watching down from death row. We wasn't part of the
So that was
general
in the cell
population.
house.
Yeah,
That's when it
it was in the cell house. Yeah, we were up top, and we would watch them down there filming, and they had all the production crew and everybody. But yeah, so James Allen here today, and I got a special guest with me today. My son, my shorty, my junior, and we have so much in common. We've experienced a lot together, and it's just an honor to be able to do a podcast or even an interview with my son. And for you ladies out there, he's like an old chip off the old block. Nice looking guy. Well, he's married and got a baby on the way. I'll let him talk about that too. But how you doing, son?
I'm good. I'm
All
glad
right.
to be here, man.
Yeah, and I know you. Your name is James Germaine. But I know you changed it, and just tell us a little bit about yourself, and whichever way you want to come off.
My name is James,
Looking
Junior
at
the
camera
third.
right there. Yes.
Legally, I didn't change my name, but I have a moniker that a lot of people know me by, which is Ansar, or the God Ansar. The moniker is solely because I'm a poet, so spoken word artist, so it's solely about that. But like my father said, we have a lot in common. Backgrounds very similar, upbringing very similar. and unfortunate situations very similar. Even after the unfortunate situations, very similar going into the sectors that we went in life in general, which was the community activism side. But yeah, I'm glad to be here with my dad, do the interview. It's not often a father and son sit down with our type of background
Oh yeah.
and discuss some of the topics we're going to discuss today.
Yeah. Well, most definitely, it's history, man. People pretty much know my story now. Having a book out, talking about Not My Chair, and let's go back a ways. In the late '70s, early '80s, your father took on a whole different role, whole different character. It was like I was a different person, but I dipped out into that criminal circlet world and became somewhat of a nuisance to society and the community. But and it cost me dearly. Had you at a young age, didn't know nothing about fatherhood. You wasn't planned, but I thank God that you're here today, and it's his will. It wasn't my will, it's his will that it happened. So, and I thank your mother, Tammy. Me and Tammy are cordial today. We're not together, but, and your sister, Aisha, and your brother, Joey, she did a pretty good job, being a single parent. She tried as much as she could to keep you guys pretty much reared in the right direction.
Yes.
But unfortunately it didn't happen that way. You didn't have your father in your life. So how did that feel? Can we talk a little bit about that? Your younger years without me being there. And
So yeah, it was difficult in a sense. So my mother, uneducated, young woman from Las Vegas, 3 children, don't know what to do. The guy she's in love with is on death row, so she doesn't know which direction to turn. She turned to drugs and men. Some of the men was good men, I just personally wasn't necessarily interested if it wasn't my father.
right.
From a very early age, that was the case. And because of that, I took a different route. It wasn't easy. I grew up playing sports like most children, but my father wasn't at the games, so that took a toll on me when you would see someone else dad's there. But I think a lot of that also motivated me. But more than anything, I would be fascinated with stories. I would go into different sectors or parts of Las Vegas, and I would hear stories about my father. So to some degree, I tried to mimic that at a very early age.
When you say mimic, you became a lover of what? Doing just crime, being out, staying out, outside the house.
Staying outside the house, hanging with older guys. The crime element just comes natural with that environment. If an individual may not even be necessarily looking to commit a crime, but if you're in a particular area at a particular time, it's going to be almost impossible to not be involved.
Right. Okay. So early on, you knew the difference between right and wrong, though.
Yes.
My mother pretty much was in your life at a young age.
Yes, at a very, very early age. Your mother, my grandfather, your dad was always like in my life.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I probably was about 9 or 10, they primarily was in my life. I actually lived with them. So the right and wrong aspect was clearly like what was right, what was wrong.
Yes, on the table.
Yeah.
Yes, she was very stern, and I say was because we know my mother just passed, your grandmother, and she was a queen in her own right.
Yes.
And she was a pioneer here in the Las Vegas Valley.
Yes.
And we honored her, And so, and I thank her because your mannerism and the way you carry yourself as a man, I can see that upbringing on that side of the family. So you went to school, and did you graduate?
No, so eventually I graduated, but I did not graduate in a traditional sense. I graduated with my class per se age group, but I didn't graduate in a high school setting.
Tell us about it.
Well, I didn't graduate in a high school setting because, unlike most people, I went to prison at 14. So I graduated with my class, meaning the people that graduated that year, but I graduated from an adult education program in prison.
Yes.
Because of my age, I couldn't even get a GED because you wasn't allowed to get a GED under the age of 17. So I took the GED, I passed. Those credits just went towards my high school diploma,
Yes.
which I got in prison.
Yes. I remember the day you graduated. Pumps and circumstance. You had the cap and the gown on. And for you to be in a prison setting, it was truly a unique moment, you know. But I'm so grateful that the Las Vegas Clark County education allowed you guys to continue your education. And so we got ahead of ourselves a little bit, but let's talk about you coming to prison. And you know, the people already out, they already know my story. You know, I did 30 years in prison, 4 years on death row, you know, but to watch my son, a 14-year-old kid, come to an institution where I was at. Yeah, how'd you get there?
So, again, just solely being other than what I was supposed to be, because at the end of the day, I knew right and wrong. 13, 14, I knew you shouldn't do this or you're going to have to suffer consequences. I was hanging with older kids. It started out as me growing up in the neighborhood with my parents, but then moving with my grandparents to a different neighborhood while still feeling like I'm a gang member at 9, 10 years old, which when you think back, it doesn't even make sense. It's almost ludicrous. But that's just how I was raised, unfortunately, at the time. So living with my grandparents where there is no gangs. Where I lived at, the closest house is 15, 20 minutes away. So
Like
there
a
is no,
rural area.
it's a rural area. There was no gangs around there. As a matter of fact, other than me and my little cousin, there was no other little kids around there.
Okay.
Most of the people there were like retired, older people. But, you know, for whatever reason, mentally in my mind, again, I wanted to be like my father. I had heard all of the stories, the ladies' man, the gang member, the all of this stuff. So I just mirrored those same footsteps, even though I was no longer in a gang setting. Now, I did go to my mom's on the weekend. So when I went to my mom's, it's a different environment. When I get there, it's a gang setting. So I'm able to participate and be part of all of the nonsense. Well, that's what it was. The school year just started back. I got into a fight at school, took my grandmother's gun to school. I got arrested, not as an adult. I just got arrested because I had her gun at school. That incident preluded to another incident happening at my mother's house. The same individuals that I got into it with were still over there. So when I went that same school weekend to my mother's house, a shooting happened. Just pure honesty. I wasn't the shooter, but I was outside when the shooting happened. And the shooting happened because I personally had the argument with these guys. So a shooting happened. Guys older than me, grew up in that neighborhood, shot at these guys. Now, when you hear this story, it's kind of unfortunate in a sense because I went to prison for some dude shooting and nobody ever got shot. In today's laws, that would never happen. If no one was shot, then that's just shooting in the air, a juvenile offense. But at the time, Nevada and the world, or the United States as a whole, were clashing down on shootings and gang-related shootings.
Gun violence.
Gun violence. So I happened to be an individual at the time, and I was 13 when this actually happened. I was 14 by the time I got convicted. They made a statement that I was gonna be one of the people under these new laws that had came out, that I was gonna have to go to prison for these guys shooting, and yeah, it clearly states I never had a gun. I wasn't the guy shooting, but I ended up in prison.
And so by this time, the system was kind of done with you with guns and
Oh yes,
guns on schools, but
Yes.
the handle of a gun.
yes.
So they would, juvenile and everybody was pretty much. So you was put into a program, and it was called an SK program.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the life of me, and I thought about this last night. We had a term in prison at the time, as well as you guys. We said safekeeping, but that was a joke. That wasn't really the actual name of it.
Yeah.
They had a name of it. I can't recollect what the name was, but we called it safekeeping because essentially you were in prison on the yard. You worked or you went to school, but you didn't have all of the privileges
No.
that other people in prison had. You didn't get visits. You were limited on the things you can order from the store. This is probably the unfortunate part for me, because my father being who he was in prison, most of those privileges you wasn't able to have, I still had. So because I had them, it became envious to other people in the program. It became envious to guards that was in the prison yard. And I kind of was almost set up for failure in a sense because I was kicked out of the program. I didn't successfully complete the program.
Right.
And part of the process with the program, if you successfully complete the program, you're going to go back to court and be resentenced to probation. I went back to court and was sentenced to prison.
Right.
So by the time I went back to court, I was 14. By the time my sentencing was done completely, I was 15. So I was 15 with a 4.5-year sentence. Now, some people may think, well, I mean, you was using guns just to paint a real quick, broad scope. Every other juvenile that was in prison with me had 1 or 2 charges, rape or murder. So I was the only kid at 13 in Nevada that was sitting in prison, essentially for some guys shooting in the air. But, the laws were the laws. I'm not here to say what should have or
And they
not
were
should have
tough
been
on
done.
guns.
They were tough on guns.
Yeah, they didn't
and,
care
and,
you.
and that wasn't the first time I had been involved with a gun. So, it took me a long time to say it happened. I had to deal with the consequences of my actions, and that's that.
So, being on the other end of this story, because when you touched down at Southern Desert Correctional Center, the warden himself called me up to the administration. I'm going, what did I do? Warden don't, normally if the warden called, he's going to chew you out, or he gave you something and the guys misused it or something, something, it wasn't they give you no accolades or, pat you on the back. So he goes, you didn't tell me you had a son. You got a kid? I go, yeah, I have a son and a daughter. Well, your son is here. And I hadn't talked to your grandma for maybe about a week. So there was a disconnect with what was going on. But I heard about you being in trouble, and I'm thinking it's just a juvenile thing, whatever. I wasn't too really in tune with your mother's side of the family.
Yeah.
So when it came to getting information, I only got what my mother, your grandmother, gave me. So he says, yeah, your son is down in the intake. And we call intake fish tank. My son's in the fish tank? Yeah. So, I came down there and I looked in the window, and I was so grateful and so grateful to God and administration that I was in the position that I was in. Because if I was in any other type of situation, I don't think things would have turned out the way they did. But when they told me my son was down there, the first thing came to my mind is, did he hurt anybody? Did he kill anybody? And they go, no, his charges are pretty, but they got tired of him playing with those guns in school, and you going to juvenile for this and that, and there's always a gun involved. And I'm going, sooner or later, he's going to use that gun, man. So, but anyway, I I asked the warden for a special privilege. I said, my son is here. We're not doubting that. Okay, he's here now. He's under the court's supervision with this new program. We're the mentors, and we had to come get you guys out at night. It was like what, 8 of you guys?
Eight or nine
Yeah,
of us.
yeah, and we'd have to come get you guys out at night and march you to the kitchen. You guys would clean the kitchen, what's left, and they would leave food out for you guys to eat. You guys are so young, and we'd go to the laundry, get fresh clothes and stuff, and when they approved for you to move in the cell with me, man, that made history right there. And that made history to me because it gave me a chance to be a father. It gave me a chance to spew my words at my son and say, hey, you should do it this way. You should learn this way, and we had some pretty good talks in that cell, and we had some misunfortunates in that cell, I tell those stories in this book, and you have a book out too, where you write poetry and poems and things of that sort. It's a pretty good book. Wish you would have brought it today. But
What's the name of the book, please?
Shameless plug, The Cage Voice.
The Cage Voice. I'll see if we can pull it up. Okay.
yeah, and did you make it out? Did yours go? Was it published on Amazon or okay? So it's like, son, that was so profound to me that at that time I was the only father at that institution with a son on the yard, and everybody was coming up to me, oh James, man, that's tough, man. Your son's here with you, but we didn't look at it like that.
No.
And then you were so young, and I didn't want you to think that you were at a playground or because things were so easy for you, and I was trying to hold you down to look. Don't take my reputation and misuse it or go out and And a couple times I had to tuck my tail, and I didn't want to, because it wasn't my fight. I was involved with where my son was involved now, or But we made it, and I got a chance to watch you graduate. You got your GED, your high school diploma, and it all happened in a prison setting.
Yeah.
With your father, and I appreciate that you allowed me to be father, not just some dude that left your mom and and abandoned you.
This is the strange part. So most people always ask me, like, you somehow that when the father isn't like physically there, most children grow up with like a sense of hate, like,
oh yeah,
you wasn't here,
right?
I had
Who are
to do
you?
this.
I don't know
I had to
you.
do this on my own.
I watched that.
It's actually something me and my wife actually was talking about the other day, and she was like, it's strange the relationship you and your father has as opposed to the relationship you and your mother have. And I believe me going to prison enhanced our relationship. It allow us to and most people don't sit in a cell, right? So even though we're doing this here, just to paint a picture, you have a 6x9 where two people live in, and sometimes you don't leave for days.
Oh, yeah.
So you really get a chance to know a person.
You
whether
bond.
you're, without a doubt, whether you're family or not, you have to like deal with a person. You have to learn the ugly about a person and the good about a person. So in that sense, I was able to know and learn my father, who in turn was able to learn and know me and teach, which was a big deal. So it's strange because most people you hear talk that went to prison at 13 or 14, they're heavily into drugs, they're heavily into drinking, they had mental issues. I had like a guide, like my father didn't use drugs, so he was like, my son up to this point hasn't used drugs, so let me equip him with why he shouldn't use drugs. Just look around you. You know what I mean? Let me equip him with why you should stay away from certain things because it'll harm you later mentally. Look around you. So those were issues I've never dealt with. And my background says, just based off psychiatry, my mother was a heavy drug abuser. My family was heavy drug abusers. So based off psychiatry, I should have been a heavy drug user based off me going to prison so young. But that cell setting with my father allowed me to see that and never ever tamper in anything like that. So it was a blessing as well. It's a negative because nobody wants to see someone so young in that type of environment. But for me, I wouldn't be where I am today had I not went to prison and then shared the cell with my father. So.
And it's okay. On that note, I noticed something also. You know, now you did over 2 decades
Yes.
in prison.
Yes.
You know, when you left me, you went back out and you committed a crime,
Yes.
and they gave you a 3-strike law.
Yes.
Okay.
So Arizona and Nevada, well, California led the nation with the 3-strike law, and you would get a life sentence. Arizona has a similar law as well as Nevada. In Arizona law was you would get a added 10 years to your sentence for any deal you took that was like similar to a crime you committed before. In my case, it was a gun. So because I had a charge which involved a gun in Arizona, I was going to receive an extra 10 years had I took a deal. I didn't take the deal. I lost trial, and I ended up with a 26-year sentence. Because the laws have changed, 26 years, you have to do 85% of a 26-year sentence. So I ended up doing 22 years in prison in Arizona. That's outside of what I had already did in Nevada. So I sat in prison in Arizona for 22 years, which early on, again, you can call it fate. I went to prison for a robbery I was never at. So it's a weird statement in a sense, but the laws are the law. Like, if I didn't like the laws, then I should be out here trying to change the laws. The law says that a crime happened. I was aware the crime was going to happen. I didn't report it to the authorities, so I'm guilty. So I got found guilty by a jury that's my peers in a sense. So I'm not here to complain about like the laws, but me going to prison for those 22 years in Arizona 100% changed my life. It changed my life because I had been to prison already as a juvenile, but the prison settings are completely different, which is another topic, like strange in a sense. Arizona, the prison is based off your race, nothing else. It has nothing to do with you're black, you're over here with the blacks. You're white, you over here with the whites. Whatever else you is, you over here with them. We don't talk, we don't clash, we don't intermingle, we don't do anything together. And Arizona, because you don't, the separation is so big there, it's constantly wars. So it's draining mentally, it's draining physically, as opposed to Nevada where everybody deals with each other, especially in the 90s when I went to prison as a juvenile. You know, so it completely changed my thought process coming from where I was from, and I was arrested in Arizona in one day. So it wasn't like I was in Arizona living and then I got arrested for a crime. But, you know, prison in a sense changed my life. The reason I say prison changed my life, I grew up with my grandparents, so I grew up educated in a sense, right, which is your parents. But I also grew up in prison educated. I remember times where you would tell me go to the library and do a book report, right? And I used to be like, ain't no other juvenile on the yard got to go do no book reports. Why am I doing book reports? You know? And you would say, one time in particular, I wanted an earring in my ear. Now, this may be funny to people because I'm charged as an adult sitting in prison with nothing but convicted murderers, right? That's who's around my circle, right? And literally, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna give me an earring, and you were like, nah, you ain't gonna get no earrings, right? And I'm like, hold on, I'm in prison, like, but I'm 15 though. Like, sometimes I think it's hard to register it. You know what I mean? Like,
that was just the father, you know. You don't.
And you were like, you want an earring? Do me a favor, go do a book report on why people have jewelry on their bodies and what it means. You know what I mean? So
and
I'm
piercings.
So I'm sitting in prison at 15. 1993, literally doing a book report to you, trying to get my ear pierced in prison. Think about this.
I wouldn't let you get a tattoo or nothing.
No, nothing. Like, all of that stuff came later. I still don't have a piercing. You know what I mean? But
When you outdid me, all this stuff.
Yeah,
look
yeah,
at
most
this.
of the stuff I got later. You know,
Yeah.
but when you think about it,
I didn't no sleeves.
it's strange in a sense, like I'm being told what to do by my father in prison that I'm in prison with,
Yeah.
right? And we already got the rules and the guards telling me what to do. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
Well, I'll tell you what was funny, not to cut you off. When the guys would come after the count time is over and they rack the doors and we come out and the guys, can Dino come out and hang out? Can Dino come to the gym? Like it's like, and I didn't want that, you know, but it just happened. And, you know, in a way you have to be glad that it happened because it's all part of the makeup where you're at today. So, how has 2 decades of prison defined James Ansar Bowden?
No one can sit in prison for a decade and be the same person that they were when they went in. You may commit some of the same actions, but you're not the same person. The reason I say this is once the first decade falls, then you become someone else. Not even just like in life, in age, you're not the same person. So because you don't look the same, you know what I mean? You may continue some of the same mannerisms or bad decisions, but you're not the same person. So what it has done is it allowed me to pay attention to life. There's so many things that I would sit back in a cell and I would say, hey, I wish this. They have a city in Arizona called Yuma, right? Yuma, Arizona, average day, no matter what time of year, unless it's December or January, it's 115 to 120 degrees a day. And they don't have air conditioning in the prison in Arizona. So imagine being in a cell where the walls sweat, right? And you're sitting there in some boxers because there's nothing else to wear because it's so hot.
Some
right?
briefs, brief
right?
boxers.
So if that setting alone don't change someone's life, not to even get off topic, but watch this. Take it biblical, just quickly. It says that when a person is in hell, it'll be like you're drinking lava, right? Because the water will be so boiling that your tongue would boil and your skin would blister, right? Okay, that's how Yuma felt in the summer times, in June, and July, and August.
I know. I came to visit you.
Oh, you did. Right? You did. So,
my God.
So you're literally like dying.
Humidity.
That alone changes you.
It's like that monsoon that it's just all year long it's there. It just sits over that part of Arizona.
It just sits there. Right? And when you're in a situation like that for a decade, let alone 2, it makes a person be like, there has to be something more better to life than this. You know what I mean? So then after a while, you start trying to figure that out. When you're trying to figure that out, then you're like, well, I need to go find out what else is greater than this. Well, you have to be educated at that point. You know what I mean? And that's when things take a turn if a person is really heading in that direction. Then you start to educate. And you'll be surprised how many times I was told in prison, you reading all of these fancy books, you're studying philosophy. When are you ever going to use this in life? Well, you have to set yourself up to know when you're going to use it. I don't know when I'm going to need it. I just know I need it right now. So when I get to a point, then I'll get it. I've been in so many board meetings in the last 3 years with people who don't know I've been to prison. These people have doctorates, PhDs, and we're having conversations, and these people have no clue that whatever it is they got their doctorate in, I studied that same book sitting in a prison cell. But they would never know that though, just based off us talking. Now people may see the tattoos, but most of the time when I'm in these board meetings, this stuff is covered just based off like company policies or whatever. But when they're talking to me, the last thing on their mind was, this dude grew up a gang member. This dude played with guns all throughout his life. This dude went to prison at 13, essentially and was only out 1 year until he turned 44, right? Like I don't. Nobody sits back and says, "Oh, that's the case." When they find this stuff out, and that's Google. Like the famous words today is Google it.
Yep.
Right. Google it.
Yeah.
So people Google you just for they don't have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And then they come back and they be like, "Hey, James, you was in prison?"
Right.
Yeah, I was in prison, man. For 30 years? About 28, yeah. You know what I mean? And it changes how they view you, even though they're sitting back like, that ain't the same person.
Right.
So it changes you in that sense, you know what I mean? But no one can sit in prison for a decade and remain the same. Now, you can mimic your younger behavior, but you're not the same person.
So, in saying that, where are you at today, though? What are you doing today? Are you a leader? Are you?
Today, I am a major community activist for South Tucson, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a spoken word artist, and I just branched out with 2 other people to open a small phone company that we just signed our first deal with Verizon. So when you think about this, you're talking about a guy who landed a deal. And let me PSA, we haven't got a bunch of money yet. We still poor, right? We just signed a deal. We're trying to get there, right? But when you think about that, we're talking about Verizon. I've been in board meetings where I've signed a deal with T-Mobile, Viacom. It's strange when you think about it, because how does a person go from where I was to that plateau? So there's a saying. I see guys all the time, and they say, I'm always saying, I ain't there yet, right? It's I don't know, something about when you've been all the way in the bottom.
Yeah.
Even when you've like made it in a sense, you still don't feel like you've made it. Like, I still ain't there yet, right? And financially, I'm not there. Mentally, spiritually, and physically, I'm there, right? But financially, I'm not there. But I'm good financially, though, right? So guys are telling me all the time, I'm like, yeah, they like, my wife tells me, why do you work 15 hours a day? Because I'm trying to get to a particular point. And my wife is like, you there already? And I'm like, no, I'm not there yet. You know what I mean? Because I still see the little kid in the cell who don't think he's ever going to go home. You know what I mean? Like literally, I don't unless you're in that environment, you wouldn't get it. I remember one time, this is embarrassing. I told my dad, we were in building 3, right? My dad went up north to try to get to the Pardons Board.
This is
right?
High Desert.
This was Indian Springs. This is Indian Springs.
Okay. So
you went to
like 92?
93 or 94.
93? Okay.
But you went to you put in a petition to get the life without sentence off of you. So they sent you up north. I couldn't go because I'm a prisoner, right? So I stayed down south. You came back, they shot you down. But we was in building 3 when you left. When you came back about a month and a half later, because it was a process, so they would move you early. So you was up there for about a couple months. When you came back, they had opened up building 7 to general population. It was the whole when you left.
That's right.
We moved into building 7 when you came back.
The youngsters.
Yes.
All the youngsters, okay.
So you moved into building 7 because that's where I was at.
Right.
So we're in building 7, but also you got to understand, I'm a juvenile. I'm a big guy now, but I was a very small kid, right? So you got to think of a kid in prison. I probably was about 140 pounds, about 5'3", 5'4". I was a very small kid, right? I got bigger later, but I was a very small kid.
Yeah.
You have predators in prison,
Yes.
right? So I would be showering, right? And certain people would just be stopping and looking. Right? So I remember one time I came and told you, I was like, hey, this dude, I'm in a library, this dude's following me.
Yeah.
This dude's coming around. Like the dude wasn't really, he didn't threaten me or anything, but I had a problem with it. Because the dude would just be staring at me all the time. Yeah. And he would make comments, I sure like you. I'm not liking you. You know what I mean? It's just I'm not into whatever it is you into right now. But I remember I told my dad, I was like, yeah, this dude's following me. And they thought it was funny. Right? They laughed about this. They was
still
like,
smiling
they
now,
was
man.
smiling, and he was like, nobody's not gonna bother you. You're good. I'm like, yeah, but he won't leave me alone though. I'm at the library. This dude and whatever crew he's with comes in the library. So this is where prison takes on a different term. You was like, if the dude say something he doesn't say, he has no business saying to you, I'm not around. You understand what you have to do. So when you think about it, I think sometimes we, unfortunate and fortunate, I had it so much more easier when I was at the prison with my father as a juvenile. And I make that statement because one time I got upset, and I used to be like, I don't really want to be like my dad's shadow. I grew up with a nickname Dino, right? And people wouldn't even call me my name. Everything was Little James, Little James, Little James, Little James. Or let's say we're playing basketball and someone gets mad at me on the basketball court because I fouled them too hard. And they would speak up and someone would say, that, you know, that's James' son. Somebody better go tell James. And I would be like, hey, I'm right here. Like I'm sitting right here. You don't have to go tell on me to nobody. You know what I mean? So even though it was a blessing, at times it was just kind of like, I got to get up out of this guy's shadow. Like it's nonstop. So they send me to camp. Once you have like at least 35% of your time done in Nevada, you're eligible for camp if you don't have life. So they send me to camp. And in my mind, I'm like, honestly, I was like, yay, I'm free. Like, I'm going to camp. Like, my dad ain't finna be telling me what to do. You know what I mean? And no, that wasn't the case. I got into a fight at camp, and they send me back to a medium max yard. And this was up north, where all of those privileges and, you know, the dad's influence.
Was that
and
Northern Nevada?
yeah,
Correctional?
in Northern Nevada, NNCC, and Northern Nevada Correctional Center, and reality set in. You're 16, you're in prison, and you're gonna be treated like you're 16, but you're gonna be treated like you in prison, and it was harsh. I had a lot of fights. Predators that would like just make smiles or faces came at me. I had to physically defend myself. It became a different environment. And this is the one knock I have on myself. I believe everything in life happens for a reason, right? I believe that, because as strange as it sounds, I ended up back with you. Right? As strange as it sounds, I ended up back with you. No, even before then. Even before High Desert, I ended up back with you, as strange as it sounds. I did 2 years in NNCC, like 19 months or something. I was in NNCC, but right before I came home, they sent me back to Indian Springs, Southern
on
Desert
your way
Correctional
out,
Center,
yeah.
on my way out.
Yeah.
The last like 3 months, they sent me
Yeah.
back down there, and I went home from right there with you.
I
Right?
watch you leave me again.
Yeah. So the part that was strange was while I was up there, and it was harsh. For me, this is the knock I have on myself. This is the one knock out of the whole prison thing I have on myself. I feel like I should have got it at that point. The reason I'm saying that, you had a conversation with me. You said that nobody has to know you've been in prison for the last 4.5 years, right?
Yeah.
Because I was 17. I got out 2 months before I turned 18, which is so strange when you think about it. I've been in prison since I was 13 years old. I'm not even 18, and I'm out of prison. Like, I don't even think people understand the psyche of that, right? I haven't been around a kid. Like, keep that in mind. I haven't been around a kid, and they're telling me, well, they got some classes that you can attend with some other kids your age. Kids my age? Everybody I've been around is 40. What did you talk? Like, you got to understand, I was just with my dad and his peers. There's nobody, the regular conversation isn't like, how do you fix the car?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're gonna go get a driver's license. That isn't the conversation.
No.
So I came home like I almost felt like I was set up, because most people felt like what I had just been through, should have been a deterrent. I was trying to get back. Unfortunately, I wasn't sitting down saying I need to go back to prison, but I believe psychologically I was trying to get back because I believe between the age of 13 to like 25, right? And they've studied the brain, right? This is why they're saying that like juveniles shouldn't have life. They're saying there's a part of the brain that it doesn't fully develop till you're like 25. So from 13 to like 25 is where you're like growing and you get to like that learning curve where you're like, I'm okay. For me, that learning curve was prison. So when I came home at 17, my grandfather picked me up from the bus station downtown on Main Street. My grandfather picked me up, and he was like, "You're gonna stay with me. You got your own room." And I was like, "Wonderful," but it was so strange. You got to understand, it's difficult for an adult to get out of prison, and he's used to being told what to do. Can you imagine a kid who's supposed to be told what to do to get out of prison at 4 o'clock? I'm like, is it count time yet?
So this still bothers you
Yes.
today.
Yes.
So if
Yes.
you're dealing with a young kid today that's on his way to prison, what would be your motivation? I mean, what would you start him off coming out of the intake? How would he start to work on himself and start to develop his mind? Because he's
So, another shameless plug. I went to TCU while in prison, right? Texas Christian University. I got certified as a peer support. I got certified in dealing with anger issues. I got certified.
this is why you're incarcerated?
Yes, this is why I was incarcerated in Arizona. I got certified with drug, mental abuse, and I didn't know this prior to that. An individual that young, in order to start like committing crime, first of all, take the environment out of it, right? Because everybody don't come from the same environment, right? Everybody don't come from the same environment.
Yeah.
Some people commit crimes that we question, like, why were you committing a crime based off where you lived at in life and where you were? Like, you just wanted to do that? That doesn't make sense to me. Some of us were product of our environment. That's where we came from. That's what we were in. And the only way out was quick money, which led to prison. There's always a starting mechanism for most people, especially juveniles, right? There's always a starting mechanism.
Let's start with your cousin. Let's start with Charles.
Sure, he's one that I spoke to.
Okay.
He's one that I try to explain because there is no, well, that's not true either. I was going to say there's no one else that was kind of in my situation. Well, really, there's no one else that was in my situation in our family. We had some people in our family on my mother's side go to prison as juveniles, but they were 17. My little brother went to prison at 17, and my little cousin went to prison at 17. Strange story. All of us was on the same prison together at the same time.
I know.
My 17-year-old little brother came on the yard.
I was there with
My
you.
dad decided you should move in the cell with your 17-year-old brother. I was 19, and get out of the cell with me.
What a journey,
Right?
man. What a journey.
Yeah, it was strange, and my little cousin was on the tier with us as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And your stepbrother
And the stepbrother.
moved. Yeah, so I mean, when you think it was a strange situation, but
And then it's crazy that my name hovered over everybody.
Yeah.
It took care of it's like
strange.
it's like at this moment in time, James, your family is here, and it's a dark situation, it's bad, but your name, because I had a good name
Yeah.
with the administration, the directors, and like I said, I'm so appreciative that it happened during that time, and that was only during God time. Let's talk a little bit about your religion or your belief in, that got you through, because surely you didn't follow me or your grandma.
Before I went to prison, right? Before I went to prison, my grandmother was like the biggest community activist in West Las Vegas. I don't think she gets the credit for it most of the time, but the things that she was doing, she revolutionized in West Las Vegas. I can't really speak to other parts of Las Vegas because I don't know who else was doing it there. But she was doing it there as well. But we lived in West Las Vegas. And she revolutionized community advocacy in West Las Vegas. There was a group of guys that used to sit outside the corner with the suit and bow ties selling oils and pies. And while most in the church had something negative to say about them, my grandmother would stop the car and have full-on conversations with
That's
them.
her.
Right?
Yes.
When we would get up, because we went to church on Sunday, but on Saturday morning, before we would get up and do anything, and it's strange because I was trying to talk to my cousin the other day about this, Duna. I was telling him, remember she used to make us get up and go feed the homeless every Saturday morning? and it's crazy. We were on Owens, where they're all camped out at right now. She used to pull a Suburban up. We made sandwiches the night before, and we would sit out there and pass out water and sandwiches. And we were young and we had to do that. But getting back to the religious part, my grandmother would invite the guys in the suit and bow ties, which were Muslim, to come with her. And because you would think that most of the religious part, people wouldn't deal with each other, and she didn't look at it from that standpoint. She had a saying that like, you fear God? You God fearing? And if a person says yes, then she was like, then we the same. She didn't really get into the other parts of it. She allowed her spiritual self to be between her and God, and her church self to be between her and her church. And she was just like, I just need to do something for humanity. So that was just like my grandmother. But my aunt, I don't think she married him, but my aunt dated a guy that was one of your friends. I met him in the visitation room. He came home from prison, slim. He came home from prison, and he was very close to my grandmother as well. So when he came home, she wanted to make sure that he succeeded, right? So he came around so much, and he would be talking about like what he was in life, and he would always, so he was.
Oh, he's one of the worst of the worst. So for her to spend time with him,
she spent time. But he was so prideful when he said this. He used to come in the room, and this dude was. Eventually, we all found out how bad of a drug user he was, right? But he would come in the room, and he would say this so proudful. I'm a Muslim, and he would be so proudful, and his chin be up, and the reason it was strange to me, even though I did it, I was young, so I didn't know the shortcomings then. Right, I knew him later in prison with him. I seen him.
Right.
I seen him in prison, so I knew what the shortcomings were later. But when he said it, it was with so much pride, though. Right? He used to say it with so much pride that I used to be like, man. And then I would see these guys my grandmother would talk to. Like, I don't think a person understands. Take what religious group a person is, what religious group a person is. We're in Las Vegas, right? Let's take like 1990, 1991, right? A guy has on a full-breasted dark suit, right? It's hot. Right? The preacher got on a silk short set. This dude is on the corner of Martin Luther King Boulevard,
right,
with a full black suit on. It's wool, right? So if we hot at 1:30, it's 200 degrees on that suit. He has a bow tie on. And he come to your door, how you doing today? You know, God, I love you, but we got these bean pies. And I was like, you gotta be sincere to be out there doing that, right? Yes. So that type of stuff. I wrote a poem one time, and I said that like those people are the people that like I kind of like looked up to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I got to prison, I just was studying everything. I started studying Islam, as well as studied the Bible. I remember one time you guys had something at church in prison, and they were doing like a Bible group thing, right? And I probably was like 15, and I was going actually to Islamic services. I wasn't even going to church.
I think that was a Kairos type of. They come in and they put you in different segments with different.
So they were
Kairos,
asking questions from a religious standpoint, and it was all biblical though, because we were at church, and I kept looking at him like I don't want to be in here.
Like Mike towards your mother.
Like I don't really want to be in here, but I'm in here. So, but we're in a group setting, and they're asking biblical questions, and I'm just knocking these questions off, right?
Yeah.
I'm knocking these questions off. And everybody looking at me like he don't even go to church. Like he go to service with the Muslims. Like how is he answering these questions? And it was just like in order to like really be what you say you are, you kind of got to study everything, right? You kind of got to have a grasp. So it's sort of like me saying I have a problem with Christianity. If I read the Bible, I wouldn't have a problem with Christianity. You see what I mean? That it's kind of like the problem with like the world in a sense, not to go just major religious, but I can't say I have a problem with something that I don't have a clue anything about it, right? So after seeing some of the stuff I seen, I started studying Islam. For me, everything in Islam isn't for me. Right? That's a big statement to make, right? Because I think sometimes people have languages crossed with barriers and tradition that has nothing to do with God, right? The word Muslim only means to submit your will to God. It don't have no other meaning. Any other meaning someone put there, they put their own version of that there. That's
Well, I've heard peacemaker.
no, it's not even that.
Okay, I've heard. You hear that a lot in prison. Peacemaker. Muslim means peacemaker.
No, it don't mean none of that.
Yeah.
The word is an Arabic word. It's derived from Hebrew, right? And the word is Muslim, right? The word mu, which in Arabic, mu has a male connotation, right? So it doesn't even really apply to women in a sense, unfortunately, right? But the word mu takes on a male personality, so it means man. Right? So slim, which is also like the way, it means the man who follows the way of God. So the whole point of Muslim is one who submits to God. It don't have no other meaning. All of the other stuff they put on there is man-made stuff, right? The different schools of thoughts, the sects, all of that. So when you start getting into it and you start like comparing, that's when you get lost, right? So I think people really don't pay attention, or they just don't want to see. We started with the Torah, right? Then we have a word that we call the Injil, which is the Bible, right? Then we have, which the Old Testament is the Injil. Then we have the New Testament, right? Then we have the Holy Quran. And we can go on with every other nonsense that came along after that, right? Because we can go into the Confucian literature, then we can get into Buddhism, and we can keep going on. And literally, when you start to pick up these books, you start to be like, hold on, something ain't right. How is it possible that the Quran says Jesus was born of a miraculous birth? Because most people don't know that.
Yeah, the Bible says that too.
Yeah. Did you see what I just said?
Yeah.
So
They don't read the Bible.
So if it says Jesus, and then the Torah says one is to come, who will be from the people, which is Deuteronomy 30:30. And he says, God will speak my words. The person who will come, God says he will speak my words as if he was me. Right? So you have 3 books, and every last one of the books is talking about somebody right here of a miraculous birth who God gonna be in the person of. And think about that. If Jesus is the person from the miraculous birth, right? Why does Muslims or people in general who have a problem with Muslims say they stuck on Muhammad? Where did you miss Jesus in there? Jesus is the miraculous birth in the Quran. Muhammad was born of a mother and a father.
Yeah, I think you've shown that to me too.
So when you think about it from that standpoint, you're like, how could they be fighting with each other? They the same. No, think about what I just said. It tells you there's a whole surah, which means chapter, right? Which is number 19, which is dedicated to Maryam, which is about Jesus.
Okay.
The miraculous birth. There's a whole book in there.
Okay. I see you get energized about this too. I like that. We used to have deep conversations when you first became, when you took your, what do you call it? Shahada.
When I first took
And I was on you so tough, you know, because you wanted to follow the Muslim movement
Yes.
in prison.
Yes.
But I would make you to both. Well, if you're gonna go to that service, you're gonna
Go to
come
the
to the
other one,
Christian service
exactly.
too, right? So,
Yeah.
but I can tell the even kill that it did for you, son, because you can speak vividly on the Bible and the Quran. And most guys your age, even at that age, they wasn't reading those books. And you only did it probably, I wasn't forcing it down your throat.
No, but
But-
so for me it was a blessing. Again, this is going back to something I said about 30 minutes ago. Most children who grew up without their father by the age of 13, they have a hate. I was able to, like, I have a daughter, right? I have a daughter, and my daughter has an issue with me. And her issue with me was I was not physically involved in her life. She has an issue with this,
Yes.
right? And she doesn't have no problem with telling me or you what her problem was.
Yes.
Is that I physically was not in her life. Okay. I could have had that same role, except for can you imagine you grew up in the house and your dad was in the house and you seen your dad, but your dad went to work. And then when he got off work, he'd spend a little time with you, maybe dinner, but then he dealing with your mom, and then he go back to work and whatever his life is.
It's a routine.
At 13, 14 years old, I got my father in a cell at some points 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
That's unheard of.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? That's unheard of. And not only did I get my father, we could be listening to music and you're telling me, did you see how he hit that bass?
Yep.
That's how you need to hit the drum, because you've been in there playing with the drumsticks. You
Right.
see what I mean? So everything was like a lesson. You know what I mean? To the point to where I'm pretty sure there's most kids, sons who mimicked their father, right? Every aspect of your life, you don't notice, I probably mimicked, especially after going to prison. Like literally, you would talk about politics, and I would be sitting there listening, and I would be like, why he say that like that? So now I'm going to study why you said that like that. Sports, we probably could have been the biggest sportscasters, father-son duo that ever lived.
We'd break it down.
Like at every aspect, and I'm not talking about just like the normal sports. We'll be looking at stuff you never thought we would even be looking at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel in a sense I was privileged.
Well, you weren't going to come in the cell and take over my TV. That TV, what I tell you, sports and news.
It's my TV, and I watch sports and news. So if you think you're gonna watch, it's something else funny. Because I grew up with my mother, in some sense, she was into the soap operas, Young and the Restless. I remember I told you one time, I said, we're not gonna be able to watch the Young and the Restless. You
Young
looked
and
at me,
who?
he told me,
A soap opera.
he told me, what are we watching the Young and the Restless for? Why are we watching rich people?
Right.
To show us how to be rich, and we ain't never been rich.
Yeah, I remember that. But your grandma loved that soap opera.
Yeah.
So son, it's like I said, it's such an amazing thing to sit here and chop it up with you about, our past and how we came together and bonded together as father and son in a negative situation. Because, and what I wanted to show you, that when people trust you and they believe in you, I remember one time, I don't know if you remember this, we were locked down. The yard had went on lockdown. And I had never used the restroom in front of you. And I told you, men don't do that. So if you got to use the restroom or do anything, take care of your business while the cell door's open. Because you never know when the yard's going to get locked down and we're going to be stuck in this cell and we're going to have to smell each other. They're not going to let us shower for 72 hours, and all that came to fruition,
Yes.
and we had to deal with that. But at the same time, I showed you that officers and people that work in prison are human beings too. They have families that they go home to. They have real issues that they have to deal with, bad credit, people garnishing their check or any, these are real people that took on a job to secure society, the community, and us. Because they'll tell you quick, We here to take care. We're here to make sure that you serve out your time and you're healthy and you're good and you go back home. And at the time you're looking at it like, dude, I don't need you to do that for me. But it played a part. So when we would go into the lockdown situation, I showed you where if there was a good officer, and by me being who I was, and the respect level that they gave me because of me leading men, organizing men, and taking that step to do that when other men wouldn't step forward. And like I said, I had life without. I didn't have to do none of that. All I had to do was sit back and you do you, I'm going to do me. But I remember that incident where I think you had to use the toilet and I pushed the button.
Step outside to stand.
And it was an officer that said, "Step out, Jay." I said, "Yeah, my son got his," and he let me step out. And everybody else was so jealous of that, but they knew that's James Allen. He's a mentor. He's an organizer. He does things. He does things on the yard. That's respectable.
Well, you know how you said that. You know how you just said, not to even cut you off. You know how you just said that you had a life without. Mm-hmm. You had assembled a group of guys, right? I don't know if Robert did it with you or if it was just you that assembled them, but I know like you was like at the top as far as assembling this group. But probably about 9 or 10 months before I went to prison, I don't even think it was that long. It probably was about 5 months before I got arrested. They did a Scared Straight program, right? And I wasn't supposed to be in the Scared Straight program. I don't even know if you're aware of this. I wasn't supposed to be part of the Scared Straight program. This is some of the reason why I came dressed the way I came dressed that day.
Was that Prison 101?
Yes.
Program? Okay.
Yes. I wasn't in that program. I wasn't in the Prison 101 program. So most of the people that were in that program were considered to be juvenile delinquents. And their probation officers were signing them up, right, to come to the program. Or their parents were trying to get them signed up to the program. I got in the program because it was St. Patrick's Day. It was St. Patrick's Day, and again, where my grandmother lived, there is no gangs right there. It's desert. My grandmother lived right next to the dump, and there was 3 houses over there. There was nothing over there on Mayflower.
And she loved it.
Right? She loved it. There was nothing else around there. Well, the school that I went to, I had to be bussed out far away. So the school that I went to happened to be the school that children in the Herbert Gerson projects went to.
Yeah.
And I just didn't wear green. And St. Patrick's Day was coming, and I'm always got on blue, white, and black. And they told me, if you don't have no green on this day, you getting whooped. Right? And there was probably about we have a cousin from your grandmother, which is my great grandmother, Medea, rest in peace. Her husband had children who had children. So there are cousins like without the bloodline.
Right. Marriage.
Some of their cousins went to that some of their children went to that school with me, but they didn't wear green either. Some of them wore red. They just didn't. So we were at that school together, about 4 of us. But me, and I'm the littlest, they pointed me out. He gonna get whooped if he don't have on this green.
Pointed you out, yeah.
Right? So, at the time, Tellis, which is my older cousin, lived in the house with me and Grandma. And he knew, and he was like, "What you gonna do?" I was like, "I don't know, but I ain't wearing no, we don't even got nothing green, me or him."
Yeah.
Like, there ain't nothing green in this house because my grandmother, as smart as she was, she didn't know nothing about a gang. Right?
That's
so
true.
when we're going clothes shopping, she ain't figured out why all of me and his clothes are white, blue, black, gray, tan. She ain't figured out. They ain't never seen a red shirt in here.
A green.
They ain't never seen a green shirt. Like, and she never thought in her mind, like, why they don't wear these colors? Because there ain't no gangs where she live at. This is stuff we're bringing from our mother's homes.
Right.
You see what I mean?
That's
so
right.
in her mind, she's like, ain't no gangs. They out here shooting 22 rifles at rabbits.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
See, the last thing with the rabbit is a gang or something. In her mind, she's never thinking like it's a gang around here. Because when we there, ain't nothing there. Well, I go to the school that day, and they jump me, right? I don't get hurt. You know, we children, but they jumped me because I didn't wear green. I came back to school the next day with my grandmother's gun.
That's okay. That's the gun.
That's the first gun incident.
Yeah.
But it didn't have any bullets in it. Right? And I didn't, and show you how strange it is. The particular gun I brought, I don't even think I could have ever fired it, because it was a big Desert Eagle, right? And it was the big one.
Let me ask you a question, son. Not to cut the story off, because I'm intrigued with the story. Was it easy to get that gun?
Yes. It was only easy in a sense to where you got to remember it's the 90s. My grandmother, like most women, got a big gun in her purse.
Oh yes.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
So
but she had a license.
She had a license.
Yeah.
No. She was, the gun was legal, but when she come in the house, her purse just sits on the couch. I know it's there, right? Because you know how many times I have been told, "Go grab my purse." I forgot my gun, and it's in the purse. So we would grab the purse just to walk into the car. It wasn't like she was like, take the gun out, fondue the gun. No, it was nothing like that. It was just like, go grab my purse. We kids. With a gun in that purse. So I know where the gun is.
Yeah.
So when I get up to go to school the next day, I just grab the gun, and she drives me to school without even ever realizing the gun isn't in her purse. I got the gun in my waistband. And she's not looking for a gun.
Was it loaded?
No. I didn't know that. Okay. I didn't know it was loaded. It wasn't loaded until we got there. So when the gun would be in the house, it's in her purse, it's not loaded. You see what I mean? So I take the gun to school, and they were doing the 101 Scare Straight program that Monday. I took the gun to school. I was on probation. For another gun incident, but it was a BB gun incident. And this was at my mother's house. So I was on juvenile probation, so I wasn't supposed to be part of the program. The probation officer says, hey, they got a program. He asked my grandmother, can he go? And my grandmother says, yeah, my son's doing the program. Right? So just show you how funny it was. I go to the 101 Scared Straight program, and when I show up with a black t-shirt on, some blue pants. I had on some blue Nikes with a blue and a black shoestring, and I was the only kid who didn't know what he was showing up to. All of the other kids knew they were going to a Scare Straight program.
Did they make you take the shoestrings out?
No, you audience, you guys did a lot more than have me crying. This is the part that's strange though. You got to remember. I'm going to the prison because I live with my grandmother to visit my dad. So in the car, I'm assuming, because parents took their kids there, right? Some of the probation officers took, so I'm assuming like, okay, I'm going to visit my dad. I have no idea I'm going to a Scare Straight program. You know, but the program should have deterred me as well. But my whole
because
point,
back then we was bouncing y'all butts off the wall.
They was allowing you guys to touch us and all that.
I know, but the prison. The prison, man, when they took that from us, because the first group of guys, Slim had.
I remember.
Me personally, I didn't want to grab a kid and shake him or nothing, because the background, you know, I'm feeling like, man, they gonna never let me out. You know, I'm a monster in here with these. But some of those, you know, two of those kids, believe it or not, and I have the letters. They went on to do great things, and they wrote me. And Judge Voy, down at Juvenile, made me come down and get those letters. You know, and I got them in my storage. And they went on to become. One of them went to UNLV, and I think he became an engineer or something like that. But he just thanked me so much in the letter, and thank you, Mr. Allen. You know, I've never been that afraid, that scared, and. Yeah, but some of the letters I kept. But so, man, I'm really enjoying this. Thank you for coming in and hanging out with Pops today. And you know, like I said, it's history that we're able to do this, and we're able to you know, let people hear and you know, just try and visualize what a father and son put themselves through, because we did that to ourselves.
we most
The
definitely
system
did.
is designed, it's set up for idiots like us who went through. But if we can stop people from being idiots and clowns and making those mistakes, then let's keep doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the work that you do. You're a proud citizen of Arizona. You know, I know from the mayor to the different counties there, they call you out to speak to young people, and I'm proud of that, man. You know, you didn't let that define you. Coming at a young age, your pop being on death row, you being in the cell with you didn't let none of that define who, you know, you're totally different. You're a man today, and like I said, if people don't look at your tattoo work
would
and all
never
that,
know.
they'll never even think that you were, you know, because you speak well, you dress well, you have a beautiful family, and thank you for my 7-month-old grandson. You know,
That's what I wanted to say. If nothing else, the book is called Not My Chair, right? And the book is like your journey from death row to life without the possibility to life with, and then eventually to being parole,
Yes.
right? And we still working on another step. For me, every generation in our family has went to prison.
oh yes,
The men.
yes,
There isn't one man
That
other
didn't
than
miss.
your brother.
Melvin. I'm
Other than
proud
your
of
brother
Melvin.
in our immediate family.
Proud of
There
Melvin.
isn't one individual right now who's 18 years right old who has not been to prison in our immediate family.
Immediate family. Okay.
Your grandson, my son, won't go to prison. And it won't be just because I'm there. He won't go to prison because the life that God breathed into you, that you breathed into me in prison, not the birthing part, not the birthing part, the teaching part that you taught me while I was in prison, he's being taught now. So
and that was just survival tips.
but those survival
tips.
tips to the point, I don't think you understand that you have no tattoos and you have no piercings, right? Whether people agree with how or why you said it to me not to do it, you told me you should never go get a tattoo or a piercing because regardless of what they was doing in Africa with the tattoos or piercing, in the United States, those tattoos and piercings were markings to identify what slave owner you belong to, right? So something that small, I've never had a piercing, right? Even though a person can explain that to their son, a person don't understand the magnitude of it. You see what I mean?
Right.
So we're talking about slavery had happened 200 years prior when you explain that to me, right? So, but it has such a profound effect on me that I went and studied it. So you was breathing life into me without even actually knowing it, right? Not the birthing part, because people birth children every day, right? So when I say that, I'm saying like my son, it's things that I've taken from you and my grandfather and other people, right? That will change the trajectory of his life, right? I don't want my son to not go to prison because prison is scary. I want my son to not go to prison because he'll be the first man in my family who can say, I've never been to prison and I'm still successful. That means all of the things we learned in prison, he still will get, but he didn't have to go to prison to get it.
Yes. He learned by watching and listening.
You know, he didn't have to go to someone's prison to get it. His prison will be mental.
Well, you know, he's a blessed baby, and he's gonna be just fine. Like I said, he has a dad that knows that you have to be there, because, you know, I'm a dad, you're a dad, you know, Chris a dad. We're dads, and you know, there comes a point in a man's time when he wants what's best for his offspring, what he made. You know, God gave him the ability to reproduce, and now you got to take care of that. You know, and my whole legacy is now that maybe these 25, 30 years I got left on this earth, to do something great. I know my mother was proud of me, your grandmother. She watched me come home. She watched you come home. She watched everybody come home. Those that went back, they went back.
Yeah.
But this lady that we're getting ready to memorialize Monday has watched all of her bad clan come home. And that's a blessing. And I hope that one day we can do this again, and we'll be talking about much success, and maybe we even have a little shorty in here, and he got something to say, and yeah. But it's been fun, son.
Yeah, it's
Thank
been
you.
a pleasure. I appreciate being able to be here today.
Yes, sir.
You want to do a little outro there, James? Just tell everybody what happened, and we'll cut that in as your ending.
That's my ending.
Yes.
Well, Century 25.
Oh, don't worry about that.
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna continue on learning and believing in the beliefs that we do, because it gets us to the next point. The minute you stop believing, it's like your life dies right there at that moment. That's the last of the moment. But the more you believe and the more you cling to that belief and you add on to it and you learn more about that belief, man, it's like it catapults you into the next part of your journey. And that's the journey where I'm headed. It's like when I turn 60, I know, wow, okay, no more playing, no more games. I'm not going to be sitting in no prison. I'm not going to be sitting in a box. I'm not going to be up under no one's dictatorship or what they feel I should. I'm going to live for me. And I know soon you'll be off parole. And I know you want to travel and do some things. And most definitely, that's what I'm going to do. And, I wanted to do it with your grandmother, to go to Africa and see different things that she wanted to see. Maybe I'm supposed to do that with my son. You never know where the vision of the eyes that's carrying someone else's dream, but your vision is what's going to behold it. But it was their dream. And that's, man, I'm telling you, that is gratifying to me, to know that I want to do these things and I have good people around me to do it. And I'm so thankful to have, to be able to come in and do a podcast and, just share my story. And I'm going to embrace that, to the end. You have any final things you want to say, son? Before we close this out?
When a person wakes up and looks in the mirror every day, there's a part of you that you don't like.
Yeah.
And start embracing the parts of you that you dislike. Because it could be a thing that you like, could be a bad thing for you. And the thing that you dislike could be what truly defines you. So, every day a person should just start to embrace the parts of themselves they dislike. Because it's still you.
Okay. Words to live by.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I want to thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Your story is so unique, I can't even imagine. And thank you for sharing it. We're here today on the 20th of July, 2024, coming from Century 25 Studios. James Allen Jr. James, middle name?
Ansar.
Ansar. James Ansar.
The God.
It's a beautiful name.
Oh, the
And
first
I
time I
I
heard
thank
that.
you very much for a greater insight into the things that unify us in our faith. So I appreciate that, Mr. Ansar. And I appreciate being here too, James.
Yeah.
So thank you folks for tuning in, Century 25 Studios. And we'll be bringing more from James and James, which I'm dubbing OG and OG 2.0. And that's going to be the end of the dynasty, according to what I understand today. So if little James can be OG, it's not going to be in the same way OG1 and OG2 did. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks again, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we're signing out.
And that's good timing because